Good evening, everybody, and welcome to round two of the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel doubleheader. Tonight we have Fire Up Michigan, and I have myself a handful of people, if you count me as well, into the mix here. So we're looking forward to having a lively show. Obviously, the title says it all, and that we're going to be talking about the Detroit Lions 2023 draft recap. Let me go over the crew. George Eichhorn, my longtime partner in crime for over 43 years. Welcome back to round two, George.
Good to be here. Looking forward to it.
Smoking Jeremy B. This is your game, brother.
Oh, this is my wheelhouse.
You got it. And of course, a return visit. We have Keegan Eckerd. Welcome back, Keegan.
Good to be here.
Now, the last time he worked with my wife because there weren't many things that could knock me out. But when you go ahead and give me a COVID booster and a shingles shot one day, then in boxing, this is considered my TKO without the legal slugger attached. And we welcome the new guy to the planet, Will Rock. Okay, not Kid Rock. I'm sure he wishes he was probably related to him, and that checkbook would go with it. But Will Rock, welcome for your first appearance on this network, and we're looking forward to bringing back down the road. Welcome.
Hey, thanks, Scott. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
My pleasure. Well, this is a pretty straightforward show, folks. I'm going to go over draft choices for the Lions, and we'll all comment briefly. Jeremy's going to take over a little bit with the undrafted stuff, and then we'll be able to wrap her up. So it'll be a very, very fast-paced show. I expect the chat room to be very active as well, especially if you're a Detroit fan, and we hope that everybody will enjoy. So just let you know that the audio version of Fire Up Michigan can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. So if you want to hear it, that is the way to do it. Also, please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. That's our first goal. Okay. And please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? Nope. And topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. And also, you can also mention them in the chat room as well, right? Smoking Jeremy. If you're aggressive in the chat room, you're going to get a contact from us. If you want to advertise, call 954-304-4941. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. And a very big hello to Will Vogel and as well as Greg Rice. Thank you very much for being on here. Let's get to it tonight, okay? But you know what? Well, we're going to get to your comment in a moment, but I want to go ahead over the draft choices. Round one, Jahmyrgibbs, running back out of Alabama. Well, I'll tell you what, the Lions proved that they were proficient in offense. They made some changes there. I'm actually like the pick, so I'm going to go right to left, and everybody can go ahead and give us their 2 cents, and we'll go from there. All right, George, what are your thoughts about Jahmyrgibbs?
Well, it was a surprise to most of the pundits, obviously, when bradholmes selected him. But I'm with you. I think he's a good playmaker. He's good for this offense and should be very good for the fans to watch. An exciting addition to the offense.
Jeremy?
What he adds is what DeAndre Swift wasn't. He adds more speed, he adds more health, and more explosiveness. He should be great receiving out of the backfield, and also he'll inject speed while Jamal Williams is out for 6 weeks.
Okay, then I'll turn it over to Will.
So I thought that this was a perfect signing for the Lions with the Jameson Williams suspension. He's going to, like Jeremy said, he's going to inject some speed in this offense. He brings great hands out of the backfield. He's a little bit on the smaller side, but he's a direct DeAndre Swift replacement. A little bit of an injury concern throughout college, but hopefully he stays healthy in Detroit. I'm excited to see the guy get the ball.
And last, we have Keegan.
I like the pick. I think Gibbs will be he has speed to him. He can catch. He's going to be a good weapon for Detroit. No matter what, I hope, without injury, he's good to go.
Okay, sounds good. All right, we'll go to the second first rounder, Jackcampbell. Obviously, the inside linebacker out of Iowa. The Lions drafted a couple of Hawkeyes in this one. George will start off with the first one. I'll do the best I can. Keep this frantic pace in the chat room because I knew it was going to be busy, and we knew that Will Vogel would be the quarterback of it. So go ahead.
Position ranking number 2 from one of the services I read with a score of 80. So even though he's a little bit of surprise to some people, they thought maybe he went too high. He's got good speed. They need somebody like him in the linebacker core. They had too many rushing yards against them last year, the Lions, and they need a playmaker, and I think Jack can do it. I like the pick.
So what George, I'm going to ask you, I know Will Vogel mentions Aiden Hutchinson. He'll certainly be a big help to him. But George, is there any particular player that Jack Campbell goes ahead and compares to? I've heard talks about Chris Spielman being a hard-nosed player.
I heard Spielman too. I hope he's Jack Lambert.
Okay, that's fair enough. All right, well, that's a good
Wow,
segue.
that's a throwback.
Yeah, that's a good segue over to Jeremy. Okay, Jeremy, give me your take on Jack Campbell.
Not only is he great against the run, he was also the best coverage linebacker in all of NCAA last year. So he is more of the first and third down guy. Help stop the run on first down and then come back in and third down and help stop the pass because he covers running backs and tight ends really well. I think it's a great fit. I think he has the potential to be a starter and be able to move Malcolm Rodriguez outside to help with the pass rush.
Okay. Well,
there was a PFF score. He was about 91.9 last season. He equally split run snaps and coverage snaps. So Jack is kind of a three down linebacker in this Lions scheme. He's right on the money there with Jeremy that he does have great coverage options in the middle of the field, but he has lateral quickness and speed where he's going to be able to catch you, and he takes great angles. I expect this guy to make a lot of plays, and with our linebacking core right now, watch out.
All right, Keegan.
I didn't see much of Jack Campbell, but when he played against Michigan, every time I looked up, he was in the backfield. That's what the Detroit Lions need, a run stuffer, then when needed to, get in the pass coverage.
Okay.
And that speed.
Well, I haven't seen too many people where I can honestly say you really go wrong drafting from Iowa, and I'll get to that a little bit later in the broadcast. So, all right, let's go ahead to another Iowa guy, Samlaporta, the tight end out of Iowa. What I consider the remaking of tjhockensen, because you lose one. Let's bring in another Iowa guy. We'll just call Iowa Tight End University. My goodness. So I like the pick. I really do. TJ's gone. Here comes Sam to the rescue, and we'll keep up that Iowa tradition. But before I turn over to George, I want to go into the chat room because I really appreciate everybody's contribution in here. So, all right, we'll go back to Will Vogel a little bit about the comments on Laporte, and you guys can go ahead and talk about it. And while I'll get to Brian Branch in a moment. So, George, some comments on
Laporte. Yeah, well, he's ranked 5th at his position. I don't know. He might have been taken a little high. I think the jury's still out on him. I don't think he's as good as TJ is, but we'll see. It'll take some time. Obviously, Iowa is a very sound program, as is Alabama. And, the Lions took their first 4 picks from those 2 schools. So I think I still got to see some more about Laporta, though, before I decide whether it's a good pick or not.
Well, the one guy I was hoping they drafted tight end was Willmallory out of Miami. Of course, I saw Will myself play firsthand, so I'll be partial toward my own guy. But Willmallory, to me, is a heck of a player. I know he'll do really well with the Indianapolis Colts. So, all right. So with that said, George, so your thoughts about the Laporte pick? Do you think it's a good pick or not?
I'm still giving it a B-. I'll give it.
That's fair enough. Okay, Jeremy.
What Sam Laporta does great and better than any other tight end in college is when he stretches the fields, he breaks tackles. He was the best tight end at breaking tackles. And at 4.59 speed, which is almost exactly what Hockensen ran, I think Hockensen ran like a 4.52. He'll be able to stretch the field because he's faster than your average linebacker. He'll be able to get open on those slant routes and be able to turn it upfield and break the tackles from the defensive backs. Unlike they said Hockensen can do that, but all we ever saw, as soon as he was wrapped up, he fell down.
Okay. Well,
Jeremy took one of my my little snippets there with the breaking of the tackles, but that's okay. Laporta caught the most catches in tight end U there in Iowa over George Kittle and Noah Fant. So the guy is a possession receiver. He has a knack for breaking tackles and getting downfield. The one thing that I really liked about Laporta's game tape is he was able to line up at the X receiver and also the H-back position in the backfield. So they're getting a versatile weapon that bradholmes really enjoys on this team. That's all Holmes drafts is versatility. So really high on this guy. I can't wait to see him dressed up in the Honolulu blue.
All right, Keegan.
Well, the thing is that I like the pick, but when you said TJ Hockensen, out of the draft, they said Hockensen was a blocker. which he never was for Lions.
Right.
Laporta is different from Jahckensen because he's a receiving threat. He can block a little, but we don't need him to block. We need he's a receiving threat. He can break tackles. If he can do both of those things for Lions, one of the top they're going to be one of the top 5 offenses in the league next year.
Sounds good. All right, let's continue in the chat room, okay? We'll get to hendonhooker in a moment, but let's go over to Greg Rice. Got a couple nice things to say out there. All right, Jeremy, and I will shoot that. All right, why don't you dissect that one, Jeremy?
Jeremy and Will shot that when we were talking about Jahmyrgibbs injecting the speed for the 6 weeks that Williams is out. And he also replies to Keegan saying, I hope he stays healthy too, basically. I hope so too, Keegan. John Henry Smith.
Yeah, hold on. Let me put that one up. I want people to be able to see this one. John Henry. We'll make sure that you are out there. All right. Thanks, John Henry, for participating in the show. Go ahead and read it.
Jackcampbell may be as instinctive as Spielman, but he's much better athlete than Spielman. Campbell compares more favorably to Luke Kuechly or Leighton Vander Esch, and he's absolutely right because Spielman was nowhere near as fast as Jack Campbell laterally.
That's interesting. Thanks, John, for mentioning that. Again, we can say what we want, but, your input in the comment sections is every bit as important because I can't think of everything to put on here. So when I get y'all being able to incorporate, that means a great deal. Thanks, John Henry Smith. Greatly appreciated. Let's continue in the chat theme here for a moment. And we have, what do we have there? At Laporta, I'm happy with the pick. Greg Rice likes it. Felicity Jean is always a supporter of ours. So let's go back to John Henry again. Shall we, Jeremy? Go ahead.
Laporta has got some Golden Tate art rack in him, and Hawkinson's 40, by the way, was a 4.68, so he's faster than Hawkinson.
Almost 0.2 of a second faster, too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so everybody got their 2 cents in Laporta, right?
Yep.
I missed it.
Yep.
All right, so let's go on to Brianbranch, okay? And I'm going to make my way up to Will Vogel when we get to hendonhooker, so hang tight, Will. But all right, let's talk about Brianbranch. We talk about 2 pair here. We got 2 from Alabama, 2 from Iowa. So, all right, George.
Well, why did he drop so far? I mean, it's a great find that the Lions got him. I mean, he was highly ranked. And boy, oh boy, I mean, I didn't think he would drop that far, but he did. So kudos to the Lions for drafting him. I think he's a good kid. He's going to really help out in the defensive secondary. The Lions made a lot of movements in the offseason, as we know, at the corner positions, and now drafting him as their new safety. I'm looking forward to him. Great pick.
Okay, go ahead, Jeremy.
Brianbranch had a poor showing at the combine, but a good showing at his pro day, and that turned a lot of teams off because the relative athletic score was low. But what he only has a 1.7 missed tackle, and he covers very well. I think I read somewhere that his quarterback completion percentage against was under 50%.
Right. Okay. All right. Well,
that's incredible, that 50%. So what I love about Branch is he's very versatile as a defender. He can come down in the slot. Also, as we all know, he plays in the safety positions. He's a very high level run defender with high football IQ. This guy sees the entire field. He's not afraid to come up and thump you. Like Jeremy said, very low on the missed tackle percentage. Great with ball production. He's always around the ball. And I'm not worried about his man coverage skills. He's going to do just fine in that area too. Great body size. So I'm looking forward to him to join the Den of Doom here in 2023.
All right, Jeremy, read Will's comment, and then we'll
Branch can help with CJGJ and Cameron Sutton in the defensive backfield. Absolutely. I also know that they used him in a lot of blitz packages where they put him in the nickel and dime slot at Alabama in those long distance situations. So you look for that too.
Okay. All right, Keegan.
As Will said, Branch can slide into the slot, which he plays corner and safety, which we needed because Will Harris, he wasn't that good. But also with the trade of Okudah, we needed a corner. And at the spot that we took Branch, that's perfect. Branch is a nice complimentary pick for Okudah, and Mosley and Sutton. If we can get him in that backfield with those two and Garner Johnson, whew, teams won't be able to throw against us.
Thanks, Green Bay.
Yeah.
Great trade up from 48 to 45.
All right, let's go back to Logo's late comment about the quarterback. Put that up there, and then I'll go over the particulars of it. All right, the pick I was really happy about with the Lions actually was more than the other ones was hendonhooker. I can't believe he dropped as low as he did. Nevertheless, I'm glad he did. He certainly will have time to sit there and heal from his injury, hold a clipboard, which I think every quarterback should hold a clipboard for a year or two anyhow, but by necessity, because he has been hurt, he's going to end up doing it, and they have a capable backfield. So I really like the pick of hendonhooker, and I think that when they made that pick, I didn't care about the rest of the draft. This is a guy I wanted to see wearing Honolulu blue and silver. With that said, George, okay, and you can look at Vogel's comments, look at them and then formulate your own opinion.
Yeah, Will says he's a good pick, and I agree, Scott. I was really, really happy when I heard this one. 5th ranked quarterback in the draft. He's a mature kid. He's been around college some extra years, which I appreciate. And I really think this was a really steal for Detroit. I was one who wanted them to take a quarterback. I didn't want them to take him that high in the first round. And lo and behold, they got him. Hooker has a lot of potential. And I think he'll do really good backing up Jared Goff and learning the system, learning the pro system. Like you said, carrying the clipboard and getting his reps in practice and learning the ropes.
All right, you know what? I'm going to let Jeremy read Will's comments, and then you can expound upon that.
Hooker is going to have to recover from his injury he got in college, but when he was healthy in college, he was lethal dual threat QB. He was a Heisman favorite till he got hurt and has plenty of upside. Well, in all actuality, he was head and shoulders above everybody in the Heisman race while he was playing.
100%.
I mean, and you're talking about a kid that is coming in at 25, won't be 26 till January, everybody. So no, he's not 2 years younger than Goff.
Right.
But, I love the pick. And talk about value. If he'd have stayed healthy throughout that season, he'd have been a Panther.
Yeah.
Oh, most likely.
Because he'd have been the best quarterback in football. Because they didn't lose that game because of hendonhooker, the 2 games they lost before he got hurt. They lost that game because the defense kept giving up gash plays. But that's a whole nother story.
Right.
This kid is somebody that is there to take the reins if Goff fails. That's what he is for next year or the year after, depending on how it goes this season.
Okay. Well done, Will, and great point, Jeremy. Okay, well,
So Hendon Hooker is somebody that I had slotted to the Lions back in February, and sadly, and funny as it was right at this pick here in the 3rd round. It was, and I wrote about it. So I love Hendon. He's a perfect fit to the Detroit offense. He's the type of player that's going to come in and give no pressure to Goff. He still has to recover from his ACL. But he's also a guy that when he's polished and he gets away from that funny college system that he was in, between his arm talent and his legs and his head, he's going to do just fine at the next level. I see him somebody that when the Lions extend Goff after a stellar season, he's going to stick around. He's going to give us that solid backup. But if he's got to step in, he's going to win games. He's a gamer.
Great points, Will. Great points. I really like everything you said. All right, Keegan, go ahead.
I like the pick, but personally, I don't like Hooker coming out as a college player. Yes, he played well, but the 2 things that concern me is his age and the injury that he's coming off of. But if bradholmes saw something different, I trust bradholmes. If he made that pick for a reason and saw something different, I love it.
All right, you know what? You know what? I got to go to John Henry's pick.
Yes.
This one's really good.
Oh.
All right, Jeremy, you're the one who's going to have to make some.
Hendon Hooker equals Deshaun Watson minus the masseuse abuse.
John Henry Smith. All right.
That's the comment of the day.
All right, John Henry Smith. Here's what I'm going to say, okay, before we move on to the next one. Please subscribe to our channel, John Henry Smith. You have a date with the Motor City Madmouth and the rest of us. So, John Henry Smith, please subscribe. Jeremy will make sure that we put you on really soon. Okay, John? The invitation's there. It's up, and you're up. But make sure when you write down notes, this is one because we're going to grill you on this one. So, all right, John, good stuff. I love it. That's a comment of the night. Sorry, Will, but this one's
I want to add one thing real quick about Hendon Hooker.
What's that?
In November, when he got hurt, I said on my podcast, and I don't think Will was there because it was on one of my Friday night shows. I said it would be a 3rd round pick if we take him.
Well, it worked out. So John Henry Smith is the comment of the night. We might have to come up with all these little knicknacks, but that was one of them. So
that was a good one.
You cannot ask for more 3 names that are about as common as this guy had. John Henry Smith. Okay.
The 3rd. Don't forget the 3rd.
Well, no, I haven't got to that. I haven't write that one. Yeah, you probably better have 3 because I wonder how many more of them there are out there. But John Henry Smith, you've got an admirer here. Good stuff. Appreciate everything you've done, but this one more so than anything. All right, round 3. Well, you know what I like about this? It's the 33rd pick overall. Now, anybody know what my lucky number is? 33.
33.
So it's going to be a good pick no matter what because I said so. My lucky number 33. Round 3, Brodricmartin, defensive tackle, Western Kentucky. Let me say this, okay? Western Kentucky turns out a lot of good prospects. Bailey Zappi went to the New England Patriots a year ago, and I believe Brodricmartin will do the same. He'll be a good player for the Lions. George Eichhorn. And Jeremy, you'll tell him.
He only had a score of 54, and he's ranked the 15th player at his position, so I don't know much about the kid. I mean, he played in a smaller conference, but I'm hoping that Brad, and I'm sure he did his homework on this one. Let's see how Martin can perform in training camp and at the pre-camp workouts for rookies. I just don't know enough about him.
That's fair enough.
I do have some information, but
Jeremy, before you go any further, you got to let John.
Would you let me do my job?
Yes, I will. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. John Henry Smith, what you do is you go to the South Florida Tribune channel on YouTube and you hit the red subscribe button, and then you'll be all set and you can watch from there and your comments come up a little better too. That being said, Brodricmartin started his career in college at North Alabama, where he played defensive end at 330 pounds as a pass rusher. That being said, he's light on his feet, but he's very top heavy. So if he gets leaned too forward or if he's too upright, he's able to be manipulated by your bigger guards and tackles. He has nimble feet, though, and he is very quick. The reason why he moved to nose tackle is Western Kentucky runs a 3-4, and they needed a big body after their senior graduated this year. And with his 5th year of eligibility, they moved him to nose tackle.
Well, that's pretty good stuff. I'll tell you, I'll bet you did a heck of a job over the weekend the way you're churning out this information. Well, that's good stuff, Jeremy. All right, Will, you got to follow that.
I can't because that's everything Jeremy and I talked about earlier. So he nailed it all.
You cheated. You cheated.
I really don't know much on Brodrick other than that. You know, when speaking with Jeremy earlier, it was the feet that I was concerned about and how heavy he was up top and watching the tackles get underneath his pads. And he was getting pushed around. And that's what I didn't like about Siaki Ika either.
But he's lazy. There's a difference.
And there is a difference. The one thing that Jeremy pointed out that I did not know, which makes a lot of sense, is that he was slated as a nose tackle only because of the defensive scheme change. He's really a defensive tackle. So with this pick, I'm trusting in Bradholmes' process. I think he's a 2-year development guy. He's got to hit the weight room. But hopefully we see something out of him. That's all I really have to say on the guy.
Oh, that's good enough. Okay, Keegan?
Same as Will. I don't know much about him, but I've seen some stuff that Jeremy sent me, and it all looks good. Okay,
fair enough. Yep. All right. Now, the one pick that intrigues me the most, and this is where general managers and scouting departments really get paid this is where you really find out what you're made out of. And I know Jeremy's smiling like Gomer Pyle with the mustache on.
Golly!
Yeah, I know. All right. I'll set you up for that. Don't go there. Let me finish my thought, okay? Remember, I warned you, don't interrupt the boss, okay? But you're good. Great minds think alike, and that's why he's doing this to me. He's waiting to see the darn head come off is what he's trying to do. But it won't work this time. All right. But seriously speaking, the pick that really intrigued me, and I knew what Bradholmes was doing. Sometimes you just get a feel for what a guy's doing. Round 5, 18 overall, Colby Sorsdal, offensive tackle from William and Mary. I believe this is an FCS school. Is that right, Jeremy? So to
No,
me,
Division 2. Yeah, FCS. Yep.
Right. Well, Division 2, I believe, is FCS.
Yeah. I just
Right.
remembered.
Well, I know my college stuff there. So, anyways, but yeah, anyways, as Will said, he started all 10 games that he appeared in. I don't have to put everyone on the screen. I can also read them off as well. So, George, what are your thoughts about the offensive tackle coming out of William and Mary?
Oh, he's a big guy, 6'5", 304. He could be the real sleeper. Coming out of a smaller program, fleet of foot. This guy could really be something special. And again, I give Holmes and his scouting staff credit for uncovering him, if that's a good word. I really do. And I think that this guy, like I said, he's got size, he's got height, and he could really help this team out.
Hey, Jeremy, you seem to know everything about these prospects. Spit it out with swords, though. This guy seems pretty intriguing.
He is fleet of foot for such a big guy. He can play inside or outside. He also was even moved to fullback in some formations at William and Mary. He has a 4.7 shovel time, which is faster than Tom Brady. And we're talking about a 304-pounder here. He had a 2.93 20-yard split and a 9-foot broad jump.
Okay. Pretty neat stuff. All right, Will.
I don't know a whole lot about this guy, but the one thing that I know about Bradholmes and what they're doing over there in Allen Park is research. If Bradholmes like an offensive lineman this late in the draft, there's a reason for it. Yeah. I was expecting that the Lions were going to bring in an offensive lineman. I was really hoping to see a Mafi in the later rounds or a Cody Mock even as high in the second round, but it didn't happen. But we do need some depth. We do need to shore up the guard position, and we definitely need an offensive tackle to start backing up the rest of our line that's getting a little older into their contracts. So I like the pick. I hope the guy can make the roster and help out our run game. So we'll see what happens.
I'll turn over to Keegan, then we're going to go one more pick. Then I want to have a couple nuggets that I'll talk about in between. All y'all will be able to comment on that. Then I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy with the undrafted. So with that said, okay, what do you think, Keegan, about the offensive lineman?
I don't know much about him, but I agree with Will because O-lineman was a big need for us.
Okay.
Coming into this draft.
Well, that's fair enough. I mean, you can never have enough good offensive linemen. You never know where the next. One of the terms that I like to use, Will, and you, Keegan, will probably learn is I like to use hidden gem because that's where these guys are. I remember watching the draft. 64% of rosters are filled on day 3 from rounds 4 through 7. 64%. Mm-hmm. What does that tell you? You better get it right. Everybody talks about the glitter and the glitz on night 1 and 2, but when it really gets interesting, is when you have day 3 plus the undrafted free agents, which we're going to get to in a moment. So, all right, last pick we're going to get to. This one really intrigues me too. And a lot of this might be a result of Quentin Cephas and, of course, Jameson Williams too. But I know, Jeremy, hold your thought. Okay, George, what are your thoughts about the Lions taking on antoinegreen, the wide receiver out of North Carolina?
North Carolina they're a very good program. I've seen some of the highlights, and Green had some great hands, good ability to get downfield. I think it's a good pick. I mean, like you mentioned, they're a little bit strapped right now with what happened with the suspensions. Right. And you really got to load up a little bit more in the wide receiver position. And I'm looking forward to seeing this kid play because even though he slipped all the way to the 7th round, I think he's got some really good tools to help this offense.
All right, Jeremy, read Will's comments, and then you can put in your 2 cents.
Green is a good receiver, played alongside Josh Downs in college, had a QB throwing to him, Drake May, who's one of the favorites next year, and Green scored 15 touchdowns in 24 starts in college, which is really good for any receiver at the college level, especially in North Carolina, no less. But North Carolina, ACC product, 6'2", has a 4.43 40, which means he injects a little more speed to it, and he has a little more height than everybody else on the roster. But you know how that is embellished in college. He's probably about 6'1", maybe 6 foot even. But that being said, he's not a midget.
All right, no, that's okay. But again, when you hit round 7, and the one thing that we talked about, I believe we mentioned it last week, And I know I posted on the South Florida Tribune when I got those releases from the Lions in the NFL, when Quinton Cephas, and I think I remember on Saturday, I posted up on my Twitter page at Tribune South, was would the Lions go out there and draft a wide receiver, because Cephas was obviously, he's gone now. So, and indeed that came true to form, so they did bring another wide receiver. And again, we're going to get to the undrafted free agents in a moment, but it was good to see that they addressed it in the draft with a guy that like Antoine-Green. All right,
Well, for me, I'm good with the pick, and here's why. And I was actually excited to see him join the Lions. I was hoping that the Lions were going to go out and find a 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" guy to give us some height. The Lions have one of the shortest wide receiving crews in the league at 5'11.5" inches as their average wide receiver height, and that's just a little bit too short for me. We needed a big body guy. They brought in Laporta. He's going to help fill some of that need. But for Green, the guy's got good size. He's got decent speed. He accelerates really well off the line. And he's able to get separation, which has always been an Achilles heel for some of the Lions receivers. So that's what I'm most excited about, is to see him get the separation and watch Goff be able to hit him in the open field.
very good. Well, all right, Keegan.
Well, he's not what I wanted in that spot, but we always can't get what we want. But if Bradholmes knows much more than us, and also Green has good size, and especially those 15 touchdowns are great. With Cephas gone, he could be easily slide into that role and be good for us, not great.
Oh, that's fine. Well, I'll take good all day long. It doesn't matter. I mean, if it's good, that means Keegan's called contribution. All right, now we're going to go to the undrafted free agents here. And what I'm going to do is put this illustration up here on our screen. Okay, so take a look at this and go ahead, Jeremy. I want you to read them off.
Okay, we ended up getting a top 5 safety who, like Brianbranch, didn't have a great combine, so he slid and went undrafted. Brandon Joseph out of Notre Dame. Excellent tackler, good coverage guy, especially in zone coverage, which falls right into the Kirby Joseph and CGJ slot. Starling Thomas V out of UAB was another corner that went undrafted that was slated to be a 3rd, 4th rounder. Mohammed Ibrahim, which was a 4th or 5th rounder out of Minnesota, a great running back. And the other guy I want to talk about that's not on this list real quick is we had a late addition when I made this list. At the end of the evening, we picked up Trevor Nowaski from Saginaw Valley State. He was the GLIAC Community College Defender of the Year. He actually did a 4-year degree at SVSU. So he is actually on our roster. And on the RAS score that was created by Kent Platt, who's known as the Math Bomb, he got a 9.68, which is the 36th highest out of every linebacker he's ever recorded coming out of college. And then the one that I don't like is the next guy on this list is quarterback Aiden Martinez out of Kansas State University. 51 touchdowns and 59 turnovers. He is a fumbleitis machine. I hate this pickup for a reason. Chase Costa out of Oregon is good. I can't say his first name. Thompson, the wide receiver out of Virginia. He is a huge target. He's 6'5" and 230 pounds. He's just a little on the slow side. Look for him possibly to get moved to tight end if he makes the roster. Connor Galvin is a good tackle out of Baylor. Isaac D'Angelo is a teammate of our safety Kirby Joseph out of Illinois. Ryan Svoboda out of UCF. You know about him.
Oh, yeah.
He's actually a good prospect that played inside and outside for them. And then we got a guard center and Brad Cecil out of USF. And edge Zach Morton is another RAS standout with a 9.86 out of Akron. He's a 6'4", 290-pound defensive end that can play D tackle. And Chris Smith out of Notre Dame.
All right, well, my sentimental one here is Brad Cecil. I graduated, folks, from the University of South Florida, so I'm pushing for my fellow Bull. The Central Florida Knights are my rival, but hey, when you got a guy from the state you live in, you can't be all that bad. So I'll take this illustration off here, okay, and then we'll go back to the crew. Let's go back to the comments section first and make sure we're up to date on those, okay? So let's go ahead and let's see where we're at here with these things. Okay. All right. So let's talk about where we were at with Will, and we'll catch up with him, and then everybody can comment, and then we'll. All right. So where's Will? All right. The Nebraska one. So let's go ahead. Jeremy, you're going to go ahead and just comment on these. I'll refrain from some of those, and then we'll go ahead and proceed with a few other thoughts. So go ahead.
Yep. UDFA, I remember when Martinez was with Nebraska, but then he transferred to Kansas State. In my opinion, he will be a practice squad guy, third string, in my opinion. I hope he's jettisoned out of a cannon. But anyways.
Okay.
John Henry Smith has a good comment here. UDFAs who have a chance.
Wait till I put them up so people can see it. All right.
UDFAs who have a chance in order: Starling Thomas, Trevor Nowaski, Brandon Joseph, Chris Smith, Ryan Svoboda.
Okay, let's go to the next one.
Well, I'll say one of those guys that's not on there is a guy named Will just mentioned. He could easily slide up in that third spot and beat Craig Reynolds.
Yeah, right here. Mohammed Ibrahim was a good running back at the University of Minnesota in a career of 52 touchdowns and 4,597 yards.
Okay. All right, and last but not least, we'll go back to the man with three popular names, okay?
And John
when I bring him on the show, I'll make sure he hears it from me.
John Henry Smith. Ibrahim is slow and his feet aren't as nifty. I like Greg Bell's feet much better.
Okay, very good. Tell you, I knew this chat room was going to be great, and I'll tell you, everybody's lived up to it. So with that said, I want to incorporate a couple points, and I'll turn it over to you guys. First of all, here's the thing that really annoys the daylights on me. I am not going to sit here and give grades or bashing the Lions for these picks because of the fact that I don't have a lot of respect for mock drafts and all these so-called draft experts. I know it's good publicity. I have zero problem with it, and that's fine. Okay, and that's item number one. Number two, you guys also mentioned it, okay? I am going to give Bradholmes and dancampbell the benefit of the doubt. Why am I going to do that? Because give me a reason why. I always say the benefit of the doubt is all well and good until the doubt exceeds the benefit, and I have yet to see that. I'll make sure that our screen where everybody can see.
Great point. Great point.
Yeah, so that's how I feel about it. So, if you think I'm going to bash Holmes and Campbell, no way. I am sick and tired of all these so-called people out there, draft experts that, the Lions failed day one. Give me a break, okay? I guess my attitude is just shut up, okay? I'm not bashing these guys. You got to understand the standard that the Lions have had for coaches and general managers, and these two guys are awfully good. I mean, geez, you give Campbell a 6-year deal, and I'm sure Holmes, not only did you hire him, but you even got a draft choice out of him, a compensatory pick, because I think they went into the minority pool to bring this guy. So you got a minority pick, and you got Einstein. That's not a bad undertaking. And one other point I want to mention, then I'll turn it over to everybody else, okay, is what we talked about. I had mentioned it earlier, and I'll mention it again. We're returning to the scene of the crime with Iowa, where we call it Tight End University. That's why this one intrigues me. You go to tjhockensen, it worked out all right. And remember that you traded him and you got some picks out of it. It's not like you didn't get anything for him. And now you have Samlaporta. So I'm not going to close the book on Samlaporta, no matter what anybody else wants to think they're going to do. I am not going to do that. I mean, give these two guys credit. If they know the kind of culture that they're building in Detroit, we'll deal with it. I mean, when this team starts to fall and they only win 2-3 games a year and these picks aren't working out, then we'll have another broadcast. But right now, those are my points. With that said, George, you've been around a long time. You can
I've been around a long time, and the same old Lions a long time. So that's why some of us are hesitant to jump on the bandwagon. And all due respect, I mean, these guys have been here for 2 years, and I agree with you, Scott. They have done a marvelous job of drafting. And for somebody to get in there and just go on bash, that's a bunch of BS too. Because like you said, these guys do their homework. You can tell the depth of knowledge that goes into these picks. And, I'm a friend of Luther Bradley, okay? That's the uncle of our general manager. And let me tell you, you talk about a man of integrity who sold business for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan after his playing career and was one of the most successful sales reps we had at Blue Cross. Wow. And I haven't shared this with many people, but I know Luther, and I know that guy from Notre Dame, Bradley, he stands on this, and that's the fact that his nephew is something special. He's something good. And we are seeing that slowly but surely. So I'm going to just end with that. I agree with you, Scott. These pundits out there, they don't know it. They don't know all the knowledge.
Yeah,
Awesome.
when I kept seeing these comments, I started laughing at them. I really did. And Will, I'm going to turn over. I like your body language there, Mr. Rock. So, and I saw it. I pay attention to everything going on with these shows, pal. I do. But I don't call it a rant. It is what it is. But when you go out here and have all these people lying acing on day one, give me a break. You know what, Mr. Henry, you're on a roll. We're going to have your name in speed dial soon because you got a lot to offer and you're going to be on speed dial. But before we do that, Jeremy's going to read your comments quick, right, Jeremy?
UDFA D tackle Chris Smith benches 225 37 times. He played ball at Cranbrook and most of his college ball at Harvard. He spent his final year at Notre Dame. If football doesn't work out, he will be all of our bosses one day.
Well, that's pretty good. Again, Henry, you're on a roll, brother. Now, wait till I tell you when you get on here. So what can I do? I mean, but you know what, man? I'll tell you what. I have no choice because it's a responsibility of the big show here. Okay, so for a lot of you folks that missed it, okay, we are going to go back to the comment of the night. Okay, yes, we do bring these up. But George Icorn and Will Rock, I want you both to read this thing simultaneously. Both of you together read the comment. Okay, by John Henry Smith. Go ahead.
Go.
All right, so hendonhooker equals Deshaun Watson without the masseuse abuse.
I have never, in all my years of doing this, seen a comment this good.
Wait a minute. I remember a comment that got a guy a job writing for you one time when he called a certain previous coach, Mattpatricia.
Oh,
yeah, is that right?
Yeah. I wonder who that was.
You don't know.
All right, so listen. I know. Never mind. Don't steal. Don't you dare, Jeremy.
Hey, that was a great. I gave it comment of the night as soon as I read it.
Yeah, but
because that's a line after my heart. Because you know me.
I'm talking, and you're listening because I'm the teacher and you're the pupil. Okay. All right. Just remember that, Jeremy. Don't you overshadow John Henry Smith's comment. Okay, because that one was good. In fact, you know what I'm going to do, Jeremy? While I'm writing it down on my piece of paper, why don't you go ahead and comment on uno, dos, tres, okay? The bashing, the Holmes, the Campbell, and Iowa, and I'm writing this comment down. Go on, Jeremy.
You know what? I could care less when anybody says you can't bash Iowa because they do put out good tight ends. George Kittle, Noah Fant, anybody but tjhockensen. That being said, the draft pundits got it wrong because all I've heard all morning is that Detroit was one of the top 5 drafts. And as a matter of fact, Next Gen Stats back that up because it's only the second time in modern draft history since Next Gen Stats has been doing this that the first 5 picks had scores over 80.
Keep going. I'm not done writing.
Well.
Okay.
So for me, I've seen a lot of these negative comments coming in over the past few days. And I sat back and thought about the first draft when Holmes and Campbell just got completely roasted. And then when everything came to fruition during the first season, well, it was well-deserved, wasn't it? We had a pretty bad showing out. But then in season 2, they draft again and they hit home runs and you've got 6 guys that were just drafted starting. So to bash Holmes and Campbell and Sheila, because it starts at the top, to put this thing together is just absolutely asinine. These people are working their asses off. They're putting together a good ball club. They're about a season ahead of this rebuild process, which is now in full go mode. And they're putting a good product on the field. The Detroit Lions are one of the most hottest searched teams right now in the NFL. That's why the NFL is looking at putting them into 5 primetime games this year. So it's a theory right now. We'll see if they get them all. But for me, it's watching the process. It's giving Bradholmes and Dan Campbell their due diligence. It's being patient. There's a reason why everybody has a mock draft and everybody has what. There's everybody has one for a reason, and about 10% of them are right. We don't know what they know. We have 10% of the information they do. So if we get anything right, we're lucky. But when they get it wrong, there's no reason to clamor back at them. Praise them when they're doing well. They're putting together a good ball club, and we're going to have an exciting season.
Yeah, the one thing mock drafts or any of this stuff can't measure is what's in the heart and the work ethic. I don't care what you say about anything else. You can't measure any of that stuff. And I think that's the one thing. But again, you know what? It's good content because we're all in the journalism media business anyways, right? Right, George? We're the king of content. So we want to make sure that we're out there trying as hard as we can to get as much information again. But none of these mock drafts factor in trades anyhow. So it doesn't matter. If you're, it's not going to take a rocket scientist to figure who the top choices are. But meanwhile, when I say that, Jeremy, okay, the Lions had what you were talking about. If the Lions should take Jalen Carter, they didn't. They were a little nervous about it.
So they traded back.
Well, but that's okay. So he ends up with Philadelphia anyhow, and now the Philadelphia Eagles are considered the Philly Bulldogs because they snapped all these Georgia players up.
Hey,
wait, Jeremy, that was more intriguing storylines of the whole draft. Go ahead.
And I nicknamed him in every time I wrote about him in my draft articles, UGA North.
Oh, yeah?
No, you get the Lions are now the Bama Reds.
We are the Bama Blue Tide.
That's
and
right.
Don't forget the Iowa Hawkeye Golden Tide.
That's right.
You hear this one?
I heard it in the chats that were going on my show. But that being said, my way too early grade is I gave it a B+. Okay. There was nothing there that said it was bad. There was nothing there that said it was home runs. It was just a good, solid draft, top to bottom. So I gave it a B+. But you know what? These draft grades, right after they happen, they mean absolutely butt kiss because you really can't judge a draft pick until they get to year 3.
Oh, I agree. Oh, yeah. No, you were right on target with that. So. All right, Keegan, I know you're getting all this information, and you're what we call a first-class sponge, getting whatever comments that you're able to. So I put out 3 interesting points. Keegan, you want to talk about 1, 2, 3 of them? Tell me what you think, my friend.
I'll talk 3 of them if you wanted to.
Go ahead.
I'd say my first point is about the haters on Holmes and Campbell and Holmes and Campbell. Well, you realize we're coming off of era of mattmillen, bobquinn, and Patricia. We have to. The first year, they had to completely start over. And then they were starting to build after that first season. Especially last year, all of their draft picks were home runs. All of them ended up starting or playing really well for us. This upcoming draft class, they could possibly do the same thing, in which the Lions need. And then my second one. Wait, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. And then I'm going to put another comment up in the chat room as well. I'm going to put Ralph Williams. So hang on. I think the Lions had a good draft. You know what, Ralph? I think many of us agree with you. Go ahead. Continue on, Keegan.
Second is that.
Thank you, Ralph.
Actually, I'm sorry. I only have 2, not 3.
All right. So what's the other one?
Is the grade. People are giving them way too many early grades. They're not giving them a chance to prove themselves.
Right.
People are telling them that they're going to be bad.
Well, I encourage anybody that thinks that. I hope they have a lot of wax in their ears. They don't hear it anyway, so it doesn't matter. That's where wax in the ears really does help because you just forget about it. So, but I've been told don't ever use Q-tips to go ahead and put in your ears, otherwise you're gonna have ear damage. But that's your medical tip of the night, presented by the South Florida Tribune. All right, go ahead. Okay, I tell you, well, I mean, these things come up what they are. I mean, the reality is the situation is I'll beep that word like you wouldn't believe it. Hidden gem, hidden gem, hidden gem. You don't know where that next star player. Well, here, we talk about Rama. Here, I don't even know how to pronounce this guy's name.
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
That's good enough. Okay. Yeah, I still haven't gotten this guy's name right. All I know is he's good. Okay.
He was a hidden gem. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. What was he? Jeremy, wasn't he a 4th-round pick?
4th-round pick. He was our first 4th rounder. Derek Barnes was the second one.
Right. Okay. There you go.
So in the Pro Bowl.
so everybody's talking about where these guys are coming from, anyways. Well, this guy's a 4th round pick, and he's going to be getting some pretty good money when he gets to that second contract. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Since everybody here is sports fans, I wanted to let everybody know the Sixers went into the Garden and knocked off Boston tonight.
Wow.
Very good.
It's only game one. It's only game
Without
one.
Embiid. Without Embiid.
It's only game one.
Game
I
one.
know.
It doesn't matter, George. Jeremy's trying to be a journalist tonight. He's giving us an update. Give him his due,
Okay,
brother.
I'll give you this one. New Jersey 2, Rangers no score, 3rd period.
Okay, there you go.
I don't think Rangers are scared yet.
Oh, they should be. They should be with that goaltender.
I know.
This
I'll give you one.
is a live sports show. We here to give updates, right, George? The way we used to do it way back in the day, right?
That's
I just
right.
know if they're watching us, maybe they're not watching TV. I thought they'd like them to have the update that Boston went down tonight.
There you
Look at
go.
this guy. See,
Yeah.
well,
So
Jeremy,
Scott, you brought up a good point earlier, and
Yeah.
when you were talking about Dan Campbell and bradholmes, and there's something that I wanted to mention. You know, when they're selecting these guys, when the Lions are putting their draft together, they're not just going out and finding the biggest names. They're not going out and finding the biggest stats. They're not going out and finding the biggest schools. Doesn't mean that they're not going to pull from them. They're going out and finding the right fit to meet the culture, to fit the identity, to fit the scheme.
right.
You know, I'd rather have a bunch of B players, okay, B minus B players playing very well in a scheme that listen, that fit the culture, that are able to identify with the team, than a bunch of A individuals that are only worried about themselves, that don't fit, that they don't work together. The Lions are building a team, a unit, not a bunch of individuals out there trying to pull stats. That's the difference with this Lions regime in the last 3 years in this team. And that's why they're going in the direction that they're going, is because they all believe in each other.
All right. So, Will,
Amen.
let me ask you a question. How old are you?
42.
Okay. George, okay, ready? Google the name Lynn Bodine. Boden. Do as I told you to do. Google it.
I know he was a flop.
No, forget that. That has nothing to do with it. All right, Jeremy will do it because you're too slow tonight, Icorn.
What do
Lynn
you want from
Bodine.
Lynn Bodine?
Huh?
What do you want to know about him?
Where was he picked?
Oh, draft.
Yeah,
How do you
draft.
spell his last name?
Boden.
Boden.
I thought it was INE.
Or I don't know. I think it was
So did I.
Boden. Well, check it out.
1975, round 1, pick 13, Detroit
Yeah.
Lions.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Three
Out of
seasons.
what school?
South Dakota State,
Thank
University.
you very much. So you know who the general manager was then?
In 75? No.
Russ Thomas.
Okay.
So you're worried about B players, okay? You know, what was it? South Dakota State? Nothing against South Dakota State. They always make a presence in NCAA tournament. What are they? The Jackrabbits, I think. I
I'm
believe,
not
right?
sure.
Well, the
Yeah, but
Lions used to go ahead and draft a lot of these guys from schools that I had never heard of. So we're going to sit here worry about B draft choices. Go back in time there, once upon a time when Russ Thomas was in charge, and then we'll classify what those drafts are, and then you'll wonder why the Lions have had issues going deep into the playoffs, let alone making them back in time. That's the only point that I'm trying to bring up, Will. Okay, and I think your point is well taken about the B players because they're all trying to be a team. That's exactly what where you set me up, Will, real well, because I'm just trying to make a point that, to me, when you talk about HBCUs, FCS schools, you can find a hidden gem anywhere. You really can. And the thing I found out a lot during the spring here is, listen, I attended Florida Atlantic University's Pro Day, and I also attended the Miami Hurricanes Pro Day. And I'm going to tell you, there were some prospects in both places. They really were. And so talent can come anywhere. So I don't put a lot of stock in the combine. I really don't. Obviously,
Zero.
Yeah, zero, exactly. What did Dan Campbell say? Well,
It's a
did he say,
pajama party, man.
Olympics.
It's a
The
big old
pajama
pajama party.
Olympics.
huh?
The
It's a pajama party.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So listen to Dan Campbell. This guy knows what he's talking about. This guy can go ahead and do push-ups at Allen Park. That's not so bad. But the point of the matter is I don't take a lot of stock in the combine, although it's a good publicity event for the NFL, the NFL Network, or content. But really, the pro days is really where it's at.
Yeah, when I see some of these draft picks that they passed up on, so they passed up on a bunch of A players at 6, right?
Right.
They still ended up getting an A guy with Jahmyrgibbs, even though he wasn't the first overall rated. But they could have taken Bijan Robinson at 6, which was another A player.
That's true.
So they're passing up on some of these guys, and they're still pulling in high quality, high character, good football IQ guys that want to come in and be a team that are there to work together cohesively. That's what I mean by the B players. These B players aren't necessarily like South Dakota State. Those are probably
Right.
D
No,
players,
no, I
probably
get
D
you.
players to me. But that's what I see the difference with this team is they're just not out trying to pull the loudest, the proudest, the biggest. They want fits, and to me, that's the biggest draw to this team right now.
Well, let me ask you a question, okay? I'm going to ask every one of you guys this, okay? And that's this. Did it ever dawn on you, okay, that we know that the life of a running back is a lot shorter than most of them, that even though they could have had Bijan Robinson, nobody guaranteed that he would be a great fit. I mean, how many attempts did the Lions make with running backs with Kevin Smith, who they traded up to get? Unfortunately, injuries nailed him.
Javid Best, yeah.
Javid Best, and the list goes on and on. But when you go ahead and trade down and you draft a running back in the 12th spot, you're also, because of the salary cap, the way it's set up, the salary cap hit for running back is a lot smaller at the 12th spot than it is the 6th spot with more hits. So a lot of people have to look at maybe, I don't think the Lions are doing this. They're trying to build a team within their culture, but nobody's going to sit here and tell me, okay, that the salary cap ramifications, come into play a little bit on the business side. Well, you know what I'm coming from here? Okay.
100%. And I call that roster roulette. It's a term that I coined and came up with where the Lions, and I'm sure Brad has done this, and it would take forever and a day to put it together, that you're looking at your roster and you're saying, okay, I got a D tackle. I got 2 D tackles in 2021. So I'm probably going to draft 2 more in 2024 because by the time that first contract comes due, I'm already replacing it with somebody else, and I don't have to pay that $90 million, 4 or 5 million, 4 or 5 year contract. So roster roulette, and like you said, taking that position 6 slots later just saved them $5 million over 5 years.
Thank you very much for making my point. And not only that, I'm going to expound on what you just said by playing roster roulette. Okay, like they're doing. Okay, remember, I've been reading up on this jahmyrgibbs kid too, and I'll tell you what, they say he's a good all-purpose back. Now, I've done a great job criticizing everybody associated with mock drafts, but I haven't gotten around to the fact that if you really want to hear some good, Riddick is a guy that, and Kirk Herbstreit and all these guys at ESPN, NFL Network are more credible than these other clowns out there that are what we call barnyard draft gurus. I'm not saying anything bad about Mel Kiper or Tom McShay because they've been at it a while. So if all these barnyard draft gurus, and remember, barnyard draft gurus, when I grill you on it the next time you're here, okay, the way I see it, I would rather hear from these guys like the ones I mentioned, and then I feel like I'll get a much more fair, objective assessment about where the drafting process is compared to other guys that are just out there. Okay, I got my moment in the sun. Ha ha ha. Okay, no, you don't want to be around me when I have that laugh there. And I hope I'm not boring you, Keegan, because if you do, I'll make sure we go out there and Jeremy, I'll send you some caffeine. He'll do it overnight on our expense account. But the reality, yeah, there you go. All right, but the reality of the situation is you're right, though. Well, okay, draft roulette. I would rather take a guy of comparable talent 6 slots down and then play that game. And then, of course, because Jack Campbell, for all we know, could be a whole lot better. And you think of how many teams passed up on this guy, then they're going to be kicking themselves in the chops because of it. How many times have teams passed up on guys they wish they would have done? I mean, the draft is no exact science or process. It isn't. In my opinion, it's a crapshoot is what it is.
100%, yep.
Only the problem is before bradholmes and Dan Campbell came here, you can take the shoot out of the other word, and then you can take it wherever you want. And at least I know that I'm not going to go any further because I know I have a very intelligent audience out there. So
that's right.
I think, but that's where we're looking at.
All right.
So with that said, okay, this concludes this edition of Fire Up Michigan, but we have some other business to take care of, okay? First of all, okay, Keegan, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
You can get me through a hold of Twitter at KeekSlayer23. I have not posted much, but I'm going to start posting my takes on NFL, NBA, or any sport related.
Very good. Well, Keegan, we're glad to have you on the broadcast tonight. We appreciate the insights that you have provided us tonight, and I'm glad I finally had a chance to meet you, my friend. So we're very delighted to have you. All right. Well, Rock, you and I are going to be definitely in touch before when this bad boy is over with. And Keegan, I'm glad we got you in as well. So with that said, Will, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you as well?
Yeah, so like you said, I'm Will Rock with Rocked On Detroit Lions. Just started a media company called Rocked On Podcast Network and Media Sports. So you can find us at Rocked On Detroit Lions, Rocked On Podcast Network on Facebook, and at Rocked On Detroit Lions on Twitter, and at Rocked On Podcast Network on Twitter, and all of the social medias. Just look for Rocked On. We're going to be there. Stay rocked on. I love what you're doing here, Scott. Thanks for having me on.
Well, don't worry. I always like to meet a lot of Jeremy's people. Jeremy's brought a lot of people on. I'm looking forward to bringing more of them on. I think tonight was a perfect opportunity to incorporate two of you in here because obviously the recent events over the weekend that took place. So timing was really impeccable. As I said earlier in the show, there are certain battles I can win, but a shingles vaccine and a COVID booster is one that I wasn't about to overcome.
Ouch.
That's why when you have your other half taking care of business, and she's an MVP. Before I turn it over to Jeremy, I'm going to go over our situation a little bit more. The audio version of Fire Up Michigan can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcast. So if you want to listen to it, that is the way to do it. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers, okay? And please also comment, like, and share the broadcast, all right? Want to be a guest? Well, John Henry Smith found a way to do it, but you can also send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com or send them to me on Twitter at Tribune South, and John Henry Smith will be contacted ASAP. And if you want to advertise, call 954-304-4941. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. And also go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Now that I got that out of the way, Jeremy, go ahead.
All right. You can find me at the southfloridatribune.com, where you will find me under the heading for the Motown City Tribune, which is where you'll find my writings with the likes of Scott Morganroth and George Eichhorn. You can also find me on the South Tribune channel, South Florida Tribune channel here on YouTube, where I could be on any night because if Scott needs me, I'm there. You can also find me on my podcast channel on YouTube, which is Kneecap Biting with Smokin' Jeremy B. You can find me at Smokin' Jeremy B on Twitter. You can find me at Motor City Kneecap Biters on Facebook. If you are a Lions fan, please come check me out. I do an NFL show on Wednesdays, and a Friday show is all Lions news, where we talk about nothing but Lions news throughout the week.
Okay, George, go ahead. You have a book
All
out
right.
there, and who
I
knows?
still got a book for sale. I'm pushing this book.
You might have a couple customers here. Take note, Will and Keegan. Go ahead, George.
Detroit sports broadcaster on the air, including our own Scott Morganroth, interviewing Muhammad Ali and Jimmy Connors. And just for you, Jeremy, I just looked in the book, and there is a picture of Mattmillen. Okay, Jeremy?
Oh, that's fantastic.
I think that alone is enough to convince you to buy a copy. With Mattmillen in the book. And it's not for his general manager. It's for his announcing.
Right. Where he was a good announcer. He was, yeah. I still remember the night he got hired on that post-game show. He goes, woohoo, boys, I'm the general manager. I don't know what I'm doing, but I got the job.
You could thank Bill Ford Sr. and Bill Ford Jr. for that hire.
I know.
All right. We're talking
It had nothing to do with Sheila or Mama Martha.
All right,
yes.
George.
Yes.
I'm out.
Okay.
We're not talking past tense. We're talking about your book. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's available. There's a link at the end of my column on the Motor City Tribune.
I lost my hat.
You can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com. I'm on LinkedIn at George Eichhorn, and also I'm on Twitter at SandGSports99.
Well, I got to tell you, what a great crew we had tonight. Keegan, once again, it was a pleasure having you on. Will, great first act. And I mean, great first act. Okay, Jeremy?
Thank you.
I know what I get out of you, so I have nothing more to say, but the hat stays on. And George Eichhorn, I know what to say out of you as well. So that concludes this edition of Fire Up Michigan. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Fire Up Michigan. You know, if you missed a lot of the facts in here about it, go ahead, replay it. It doesn't make any difference because you're going to learn something new every time you have an opportunity to go over the broadcast. I'm telling you. a lot of these draft things have been loaded, and I mean really loaded. Tonight was the Detroit version, and we also had a very good episode last week, Smoke and Jeremy, about the actual NFL draft. Prior to that, we had a lot of interesting facts. Not so much who was going to be selected, but certain rounds where you had to watch out for. So if you missed last Wednesday's edition of the NFL draft special, there's still a lot of information out there that is very current. That's more gives you a historical perspective of what we did. So with that said, I want to thank my entire crew for joining us, and I hope everybody enjoyed the broadcast, and we will see you the next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night.